Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Shook Talley, and I'm the Wellness and Recovery Manager at the Behavioral Healthcare Division. And on behalf of the Behavioral Healthcare Division and the Department of Human Services, along with Peers Helping Peers in Recovery, I would like to welcome you all to this very special program as we celebrate National Recovery Month. I'd like to bring up our Director of Human Services, Anita Friedman, to come and say a few words.
Okay, everyone can hear me? Yes. All right. Well, welcome to this annual recovery celebration. We are delighted to have such a great crowd and such great participation. Thank you to all you folks who are going to be the center of our program. Thank you. It was just a few years ago, Elizabeth and I were discussing, we got to do something a little more interesting. We're not going to do it at the library again or have a boring speaker tell us about recovery. We know what recovery is about, right? Right. We live it. We can speak about it. We can sing about it. We can story tell about it. We can fill our hearts with laughter and have a beautiful intimate setting here where we can all join together and share important parts of our lives. So that's what we decided to do, and this is like the fourth year that we've had it here, and I think we're bursting at the seams because there's so many folks here, and it's wonderful to see you all. I am the Department Director of the Department of Human Services, and the Department of Human Services is the home for the Community Services Board, mental health, substance abuse, and psychiatric treatment services. And we have the privilege of working as a community together, staff, clinicians, peers, organizations like nonprofits, community service board, and consumers to create a whole continuum of services and activities that meet the needs of people who are going through different stages of recovery. So we feel very fortunate to be able to unite with all of you tonight to have this special moment together. I'm not going to bore you with all these many more details. We have a special proclamation which was signed by the county board in honor of National Recovery Month. So I'm going to ask Delegate Patrick Hope to come up and tell us read us.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I'm Patrick Hope. I'm a delegate in the Virginia General Assembly. I represent part of Arlington, and I also send you greetings from Richmond. I will tell you that since I've been in elective office for 8 years, you see all different kinds of CSBs and Department of Human Services across the state. But I have to tell you, bar none, Arlington County's CSB and Department of Human Services is one of the best in the entire state. And so I want to congratulate Anita Friedman for her leadership, but not just Anita. It's not just because of Anita. It's the people behind me. It's the stuff that you're going to hear tonight, and everyone here in this room that makes the Department of Human Services and the CSB in Arlington one of the best in the Commonwealth. And so I'm here also to extend some greetings from the Arlington County Board, and they have put together a proclamation, a 2017 National Recovery Month proclamation, and I'd like to read it to you if you'd bear with me. Whereas National Recovery Month is a national observance held during September to teach the public that substance abuse treatment and mental health services can enable those with a mental and/or substance abuse disorder to live a healthy and rewarding life. And whereas millions of people throughout the country, including Arlingtonians, participate in activities and events commemorating National Recovery Month. And whereas this year's theme, Join the Voices of Recovery, strengthen families and communities in an effort to increase awareness of how families and communities play a vital role in the recovery process. And whereas alcohol and drug addiction remain challenges in Arlington, But with proper support from family, friends, communities, and the county, those affected can overcome their disease. That's probably the most important whereas here. Whereas we must encourage relatives and friends of individuals with mental and or substance abuse disorders to implement preventive measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas treatment and recovery of people who struggle with substance abuse disorders not only give them a new opportunity at life, it improves the welfare of our entire community. Now, therefore, I, Jay Sept, Chair of the County Board of Arlington, Virginia, do hereby recognize September of 2017 as National Recovery Month in Arlington County, and I call on all Arlingtonians to support the recovery needs of those afflicted by addiction. And it's signed by Jay Sept, the Chair of the Arlington County Board. So I bring you greetings I'm bringing you greetings on behalf of the Arlington County Board, but of the entire Arlington delegation to Richmond. I thank you all for coming out tonight. I look forward to sitting and learning and hearing all the miraculous stories, how we can all learn how recovery works, because we do know that recovery is possible, and with treatment, recovery does work. So here, I'll hand it over to Elizabeth. Thank you all very much.
Sorry, I had to interject here. Thank you, Patrick. I would have been remiss if I wouldn't have climbed back up here to give my thanks to a specific individual who is always behind the organization of this successful event, and I think you all know her, Elizabeth Shook. So she is a peer herself, a person who has experienced mental illness, and she is a wonderful spokesperson and great organizer, and we are so grateful that you are on our staff. So thank you.
Thank you, Anita. And thank you, Delegate Hope, for reading the proclamation. The Behavioral Health Care Division at Arlington County provides comprehensive mental health and substance use services to adult residents of Arlington County, including counseling, therapy, emergency and psychiatric services, and much more. Please see the back of your program to see how to access our services, and then there are also some brochures on the back table. As you came in, you may have been greeted by some of the staff at one of our contractors, who is our partnering organization for this program, which is Arlington's Peer-Run Recovery Center. Some of you may be wondering, just what is a peer-run recovery center? Well, Arlington Peers Helping Peers in Recovery is a safe, stigma-free place for those experiencing mental illness, substance abuse, and homelessness. The center is run by peers or people who have lived experience with mental health or substance use disorders. They have been there. The center helps people overcome challenges in a welcoming and supportive environment that emphasizes recovery. The participants benefit from a greater sense of inclusion, awareness of recovery, and personal responsibility. This service complements the services that the Behavioral Health Care Division provides. And there's also more information in the back if you're interested in learning. So when we speak of recovery in terms of mental health and addiction, we hear different meanings, and often I hear that it's not entirely clear. What we do know is that it's different for everyone, and that we are all on our own journey. We also know that it's not a linear path. The definition that is widely accepted from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, states that recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. Reaching our full potential is what many of us are striving for. Those of us who deal with mental health and addiction issues are no different from those without in terms of what we want out of life. The theme for the Recovery Month 2017 is Join the Voices for Recovery, Strengthen Families and Communities. For this specific event, we chose to focus on the community. And just having the venue for an event such as this at a restaurant in the community for the community highlights the theme. But also, the individuals who will be speaking this evening will be weaving into their stories what or who in the community has helped them on their journey. Each year, Recovery Month invites individuals in recovery to share their personal stories and successes in order to encourage others. Sharing personal stories and successes encourages others to do the same, which can help break down the barriers that have led to much stigma and discrimination for far too many years. Tonight is an attempt to diminish this and to see people as the individuals they are and not their diagnoses. Just as our participants, I too have lived experience, and mine happens to be with a mental health issue. And I've been an advocate for many years, both in my personal life as well as my job here as the Wellness and Recovery Manager. Arlington County values the perspective of lived experience in a management role with the purpose of helping to make our system even more recovery-oriented. The importance of sharing our stories is something that is very near and dear to me. But tonight is about the 9 individuals on this stage, and they will be sharing their stories and their talent. We have some really amazing people here who are courageous enough to step up and speak out about their recovery in regard to their own lived experience with mental health and addiction in order to help educate the community as well as to help people understand that we can and do live healthy, productive, fulfilling lives in the midst of being in recovery. I do want to make a disclaimer that some of the things you will hear this evening are difficult to hear. But these are people's stories of recovery, and sharing the truth is what makes this so important. So, without further ado, Kevin Kahn is going to start us off with his thoughts about what he titles The Connection.
Thank you. A little over 2 years ago, I went to a motel with the intent of killing myself. I can recall the surroundings and lots of other details now, but at the time, I felt numb, like a zombie, and alone. It's not an excuse. I own my actions. I regret the pain I caused my friends and my father. Some of you already might be uncomfortable with what I'm talking about, and I could go on into more detail, but I won't because I'd rather delve into why we are all so uncomfortable to talk about mental illness and try to remind you all that the connection that I feel so many of us have forgotten. It angered me before my attempt and still does to this day when people say a person was selfish for trying or sadly succeeding in killing themselves. It wasn't selfishness that drove them to that end. It was exhaustion from the depression. That voice in our heads that puts us down every second of every day. We all have that voice. Sadly, in our society, we have bought into the lie that showing our flaws to others is wrong and makes us look weak. I bought into that for a long time, and I put on a front because I didn't want anyone to see how much pain I was in. So I'd go through life afraid, giving that look that I'm fine and normal, like everyone else does. I've seen that same look I had in my father, in my friends, and in strangers. The frustrating belief I have is that if we just realize how much alike we all are, it would heal so much of the pain we feel. But fear tends to rule us all. Fear is telling you not to listen to me, or that I'm a loser for giving up or not being tough enough. Fear wants you to think that you're in control. Fear tells you that you don't Fear tells you not to listen to the stories about depression or the mentally ill because either, oh, that's so sad, or, well, I can't relate because it doesn't affect me personally. Fear wants us to live in our own bubbles because the second we connect with someone else, the second we have compassion or understanding for another, is when for a brief moment we see that we are all connected. For most of my entire life, I listened to that fear. It took me down an angry and destructive path. It was only when I stopped listening to fear did my life start to turn around. I wasn't ashamed or afraid to admit I had a problem. I wasn't afraid to accept therapy and other programs that I used through the Arlington County Department of Human Services, something I never knew existed. Why? Because of that stupid stigma of fear and embarrassment had built up so damn much. I was afraid to even ask friends for help or even use Google. But after my suicide attempt, I stopped giving in to the fear all the time. And in the past 2 years, I can say I finally have a job I love. I'm working on a science fiction graphic novel I hope the world gets to see. I've dropped 10 inches off my waist with the help of the In Shape program, also available through the Arlington County Human Services. And for the first time ever, I am slowly but surely starting to love myself. While I still battle depression daily, and may have to the rest of my life, I am determined to be in control and not let it rule me. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to change your life or make you all feel like you're doing it wrong, because nobody likes that. Our lives are our own, but the connection I talk about is knowing we are not alone. In how we feel at times. It would have been more dramatic if I had said it all together. But we must stop waiting for someone else to fix us. Waiting to be healthy is like waiting in line for a carnival ride that everyone around you seems to have been on, and they all seem to love it, and you want to get on it too, and you wonder how they got on and where they got a ticket. And then you get bitter and sad at everyone around you because they have it all figured out. Well, lately I've realized there is no ticket, that the only reason I'm in line is that I choose to be. So let us stop letting fear run our lives. Every one of us can learn how to retrain our brains. Let us start to see that our weaknesses make us all strong and connected. Let us reach a point when someone says that they're depressed, you don't say to get over it or, oh, you were doing so good until now. You just listen to them, talk to them, and start to figure out ways to start the healing process. Let us not look at mental illness as a stigma, but as a reality that all of us have in some form. Please, let's talk to each other. Let us see how much we are all alike, rather than focusing on differences that are minor and pointless. Because whatever sex, race, religion, or anything else that others make us feel different for, just remember, we are all human. And we've all done that weird half silly run, half walk when crossing the street when the light's about to change. You know the one, oh, I'm gonna be late. Oh. Let us stop and put ourselves in other people's shoes. Let us stop allowing the word hope to be looked as a bad four-letter word. Let us all look at one another, and rather than pointing out our other weaknesses, we see the strength that all of us rise every day to keep fighting back and learn from that. Let us see that us versus them has never and will never be the long-lasting answer. Because I can't do this alone, and neither can you. But the beautiful thing is, we don't have to. We are all connected, so let's stop fighting that connection and come together as one. Stop listening to fear, but ultimately remember that none of us are ever truly alone. Talk, listen, learn, and love one another. These are just words, but together we can make them a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. And next is Judy, and with Judy's top 10 supports for recovery.
My name is Judy. I worked and held down professional jobs successfully for over 25 years. I never disclosed my mental health status, yet my work was a major source of my mental health problems. My well-being really improved when I stopped working in 2011. These are my personal top 10 supports for recovery. Number 10, hospitalizations. I attempted suicide twice, once at 19 and once again at 50. Each time I was hospitalized and my recovery journey was rebooted. Number 9, the past is the past. I learned that holding on to old anger, bad situations, and negative feelings were not healthy for me. Memories and feelings do resurface, but I try and put them back in the past where they belong. Number 8, electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. When I was 46, I worked for an excellent company and had a good job. However, my work pressures and my mental health collided. I went on short-term disability for 7 months. I had a series of ECT treatments, and I was able to return to work. I'm not sure which was most beneficial, not working or the ECT. Number 7, correct diagnoses drive treatments. At 19, they called it a crisis of independence. Then came depression, followed by unipolar depression. A bunch of other disorders came and went, including ADD. Now my disorders are bipolar 2 and a generalized anxiety disorder. Number 6, better living through chemistry. In other words, prescription medication. Meds are like my safety net. I still get depressed, but not for as deeply and not for as long. Meds calm my anxious thinking and feelings and make it easier to cope with life. My cocktail of meds now includes 2 antidepressants, a mood stabilizer, and 2 anti-anxiety drugs. Number 5, talk, 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 talk. Talk therapy in combination with meds are the foundation of my wellness. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps me reframe my distorted thoughts and feelings. I keep adding strategies to my recovery toolkit and pull them out when I need them. Group therapy is quickly becoming my favorite. Peers meet to share, commiserate, and learn from each other. I participate in online peer support groups every week. Number 4, diet and exercise. I really improved my life when I started taking better care of my physical health. Being active is known to improve mood, but I couldn't imagine being able to exercise. I got out of breath when I walked. I lost some weight last year when I was put on a diet to prevent diabetes. Now I'm more active and my endurance has improved. Number 3, community. Eventually, I was ready to venture out from the safety of my peers to the community at large. I took painting classes and woke up my right brain. I participated in art group and annual art shows at the Arlington Behavioral Health Division. I sold my art there and at other venues. In 2015, I joined Del Rey Artisans in Alexandria. My work has been displayed there in their group shows. I taught workshops there and shared my artistic techniques and point of view. I even co-curated a show. In May, I got a plot at a community garden. I work in the garden for a couple of hours almost every day. I meet and chat with fellow gardeners as we tend to our plots. I'm finally brave enough to share my mental illness with some of the new people in my life. It's a huge relief not to hide anymore. Number 2, FFT, furry feline therapy. In 2012, I adopted Pip, my cat. I was well enough to take care of someone else. I get out of my own headspace when I take care of someone else or help them. Later, I set up a cat sitting business. Now I get all the cat therapy I need, along with some extra income. And now my number 1 support for recovery, family. Robert and I, he's right there. Robert and I met in 1999. We are very good friends. Once, I received an invitation addressed to me and my family. I asked Robert if he wanted to go with me. I said, "You could be my brother." Without skipping a beat, he said, "I thought I was your brother." We love each other unconditionally. Together we navigate tough times and celebrate happy times too. Robert is the family I never really had. In conclusion, I am always learning about myself and recovery. I started taking classes towards becoming a peer recovery specialist this past Monday. I will be in recovery for the rest of my life. Mental illness, in my opinion, cannot be cured, but just managed. Thank you for listening and coming tonight.
Thank you, Judy. And next is Mildred Miner, who's going to share 2 poems titled Bestow Her Not and Within Thyself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Poetry is one way I have connected with others in the community. Arlington County Library has poetry workshops where you can write and read original poems in an informal group. By expressing myself through my poetry, I've met many wonderful people and made lasting friendships. Through these friendships, I have been able to get support in times of crisis and been able to celebrate the good times with my friends. Poetry writing is very therapeutic for me. I have reached a level of good recovery, and I've been able to see myself and recognize I have self worth. And now I will read 2 short poems that I wrote myself. And I just want to let you all know this is the first time I've ever done this in a setting such as this, so I appreciate if you all will give me positive energy. The first poem is entitled Bestow Her Not. It came one day like a flash of light, set up camp just for a long night. It asked no question, though it was all right, bestow her not. She never knew its coming, but it had to go. It's stolen her life without much of a fight. It's taken so much and given her zero. She's been left battered, bruised, and scared of her tomorrow. Bestow her not. They say it's not good to take without asking. Oh, so how I know. You see, I journey down the stars everlasting. Bestow me not. Bestow me not. The next one is Within Thyself. This one is very hard to read sometimes because I wrote it when I was in a very dark place. Within Thyself. I search by the quiet of the moon so bright, there's no time to waste. The emptiness within is crowding my life. There's no space for the glow of the dawn's light. Peace and quiet of darkness has called my name. I've been alone and I've traveled far, yet I've been here just the same. There's no need for shame, there's no one to blame. There's someone here to help release me from all this misery and pain. I've struggled to find wisdom and insight. That's my mission, be it all right. I journey for enlightenment day and night. Hear what I say. I'm in need of some support and a little comfort, not a spotlight. There's a longing within to come home to the real person buried deep. I now accept thee, within thyself, the hidden me.
Thank you, Mildred. And next, we're going to have Faith, and she's going to share her story titled From Despair to Hope.
Hi, I'm really honored to be able to share my story with you tonight. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My mom suffered from bipolar disorder, and my dad was a compulsive gambler, neither of which got any treatment. When I was 2 years old, my brother was born, and he had hydrocephalus, which was excess brain fluid, and that caused brain damage. What that meant for me, when my parents limited coping and parenting skills, what that meant for me is I essentially lost my parents. At that point, they were, I became invisible. They really didn't have the room to give me attention, affection, or really any kind of validation for who I was as a human being. And when you're 2 years old and you're trying to make sense of the world, you internalize that as a negative message. So I grew up feeling unlovable, hopeless, worthless, and essentially feeling like whatever I did wasn't good enough. As I was growing up, that translated into certain behaviors. When I was a kid in elementary school, I would shoplift stuffed animals and give them to people because I believed that they wouldn't be my friend otherwise. When I was in 4th grade in elementary school, I was in a class where the teacher was teaching us watercolor. And I was very artistic and I did very well. But I asked one of the kids in the class for a couple of his paintings. And I took that home and showed it to my parents, thinking that, well, maybe this will be good enough. And when I was 10, I took some money out of the cleaning lady's purse who was helping us. And she confronted me about it, and I felt very ashamed. But at the same time, it made me also feel good that I was acknowledged, that somebody actually cared enough about me to, to, to see me, to talk to me, even if it was under those circumstances. Essentially, internalizing those messages and telling myself that I wasn't good enough and that I needed to please whoever I was dealing with in my life led me to want to escape. I felt like I had a hole in my soul. And what I did with that was to try and stuff things into it to make myself feel better. And with these days, there is a tremendous focus on substance abuse and alcoholism, which is long overdue in terms of society addressing those issues. For me, it was compulsive behaviors. The first thing that I used was work. I was always good at school. I became a lawyer, and I worked for a big firm and joined the Securities and Exchange Commission and eventually became their Director of Equal Employment Opportunity. But even with all that, even with the accolades, I never felt good enough. At the same time, my dad had introduced us to the joys of gambling, and I used gambling to escape from myself. I was always running away. And then I started using shoplifting because I had a little shop in an antique mall, and I wanted people to have what they wanted. So instead of coming up with a business plan and figuring out an effective way to do this, I just simply gave things away to people. Again, wanting to take care of everybody that I came in touch with. Unfortunately, and the mental health part of things is that in college, I started experiencing depression and started going to therapy, but it was never adequately diagnosed or addressed. In the next 25 years, kept going to therapy, kept working like a maniac, kept shoplifting, and kept gambling, and kept running away. Ultimately, uh, unlike the accolades and the tangible benefits of success that you get when you're an attorney, the shoplifting led me to be arrested. After 3 times, the judge finally said, "This cannot continue," and I served 16 months in Arlington Detention Center. But even that didn't address the underlying issues that were prompting me to try and run away from myself. So when I got out, I laid low for about 6 months. I went to a terrific program, which is an organization called Friends of Guest House that provides transition for women who are coming out of jail and prison, and created a foundation for me to move forward. Yet without dealing with those underlying issues, I kept running. For the next 6 years, I continued, even though at this point I had to give up my law license, I continued the compulsive behavior. 2016, the switch finally flipped. I was facing prosecution in 3 jurisdictions, and I felt like my life was over. But at this point, Somehow there was enough desire to save myself inside of myself that I started doing things differently. I started going to Gamblers Anonymous and Shoplifters Anonymous. And those self-help organizations certainly have a great way of teach you how to live life. But I think the thing that was the most compelling for me was the community, was seeing all these people who are accomplished, smart, creative, challenged by these issues, and being successful, being able to move beyond them. And that gave me hope that maybe I could join that group. I found the help I got from Arlington Behavioral Health to be priceless. I kind of joke that I spent 30 years going to private practitioners and putting wings on people's houses. But the therapist, Rachel Fielding, who I saw there, helped me finally address the issues of all the negative messages that I was giving myself 24/7, and helped me start turning those around and challenging them and seeing that my perceptions were distorted. I'm still in the, also the psychiatrist finally diagnosed me as having bipolar disorder and got me on appropriate medications. So the running away from my emotional ups and downs was also being addressed. Once again, all the programs at Arlington Behavioral Health really create a community of people who are working to overcome their issues. And there is so much inspiration and hope that is created by those people that's what really touched me. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, I'm still taking baby steps in terms of my recovery. But I'm finding that as I learn how to really value myself, I'm really at the beginning of my recovery, but I believe that my future doesn't have to replicate my past. And I really want to thank you all for being here, because this community has heard me, seen me, and given me the opportunity to feel like I may be just good enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. And next we have Brian Stewart, who's going to share just for today.
How's everybody doing? Good, good, good. Can we start? Let's do something fun. Can everybody turn to somebody that they don't know that's right next to them and just say hello? Just please do it. That you don't know, just say hello. Okay, so we're all here. We're not on our phone or any of that stuff. We're all here right now. Good. What I was asked, thank you for having me here tonight. Elizabeth asked me to come and share. I'm going to be your token alcoholic drug addict for your viewing pleasure tonight, okay? So Elizabeth wanted me to come and share my experience, strength, and hope with being in recovery. I've been working this program for about 9 years, just over 9 years. It's been a wonderful experience. It's awesome. All I had to do was burn my life to the ground. It's amazing. And she also wanted me to talk to you guys about what it's like to be a peer recovery specialist, which is an honor, just as it is being here tonight. Okay, this is something I get to do because I'm sober today. When I was out there ripping and running and destroying stuff, no one was asking me to share my experience, strength, and hope with them, okay? So this is a gift. My story is very simple, okay? My alcoholic, abusive drinking and behavior got so bad that I had to reach out for help, just like everybody just did. I had to reach to a complete stranger and accept the help. You know, I had seen people who were in recovery, and I had hope that it would work for me too. You know, hope is the main ingredients to all recovery. So when I made that call and I said I need help, you know, and I called somebody who I did not know at all, and this guy did two things for me that day, and they were within hours of each other. He said, "You're going to be okay," and he started telling me all this stuff that I was going to have to start doing, like going to 90 meetings in 90 days and call him every day and tell him what's going on and be honest, which I hadn't been in years. And then he said, I will be there tonight at your work at 7 o'clock. And later that day, he was there. This complete stranger showed up at my work in his car. I did not know who he was. He was the only guy waiting for me in the parking lot, kind of waving at me or whatever. And before I got into the car, I leaned into the window, and that was the first thing he did. He said he would be there, and he was there. And when I got there that night, and I leaned in the window, and I had to tell him, I was like, look, I find your whole approach a little bit much. These things are outlandish. Meanwhile, I have nothing to lose except everything, right? And your whole attitude's, you got to chill, honestly. And he kind of laughed. He laughed, and I asked him the magic question, and he gave me the magic answer. I said, what would you have done if I would have just hung up on you? And he looked me dead in the face, and he said, I would have found somebody else to help. Okay? So the seeds of recovery and service to others were planted right then and there. He would have found somebody else to help who wanted the help. Over the years, I have had the pleasure and the honor of sponsoring other men. I currently sponsor 3 guys. They are the bright spot of my life. The recovery, working the program, the way it's directed, not, my way. My sponsor would say things like, just for today, try to just be a normal person. Just for today, just try not to quit your job when you get frustrated. Just stuff like that, one day at a time. Like it wasn't a show from the 70s, it was actually an AA slogan. And then he would kind of bust me a little bit, and I'd say, if I could just figure this out, I'll be okay. And he would say, if I could just figure this out is not one of our AA slogans, okay? If you could figure this out, don't you think you would have already done that by now? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Things like that helped me. They humbled me. They grounded me. They kept me in line. The recovery process that I went through, and I'm still going through, today, one day at a time, I do this every single day because my life depends on it. And it's a great life. Has led me to my job, which is a peer recovery specialist. Elizabeth and I went and took the training together. It was one of the greatest things I ever got to be a part of. I get to work at a CSB over in Maryfield. It's the front lines. I see people coming in, and it's mental health stuff. It's substance use. I love it. It's not an alcoholic or a drug addict. You have a substance use issue. It's wonderful. It's like so politically correct. Isn't it great? So good. I love it. And I get to actually talk to these people instead of comparing out, oh, I never did that. Oh, I never did that. I get to go, I get it. Woke up in the morning, drank a bottle of whatever, decided to quit your job that day. That makes complete sense to me. And I relate in, and I'm in. And that's all I do. I get paid to relate into people who are in crisis. It was explained to me, and I don't care where you're from or what your deal is, we all come from some kind of trauma, okay? I don't care what your trauma is. Your trauma is your trauma. My trauma is my trauma. Through the recovery process, I was able to get down to the root causes and conditions as to what that was so that I can move through it, so that it doesn't own me. We're as sick as our secrets, all these catchy little phrases that saved my life. So when I meet with people in my job, I share stuff like that with them. I get to do it. It's a wonderful thing. So it's been an honor to be here today. Thank you all for coming out, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brian. And next, Chuck is going to share from tough defeats to Super Bowl victory.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chuck. I would like to share a story with all of you. I'd like to tell you about what it is like living with major depression. It is a disability, and it's a battle to overcome. I was born in Arlington, Virginia. I am 29 years old. I have a disability and a mental illness. The type of disability is called mental retardation, but it's also known as an intellectual disability. I have major depression. My mom has mental illness. Recently, it's been a tough 2 years. I had my own place, work, and job, but I was in an abusive relationship, and I had my first mental health episode. When I had my first episode, I traveled to New York City and spent the whole week there. The first night was tough, trying to find somewhere to sleep, so I slept at Central Park. The next day, I got admitted in a homeless shelter. I stayed there for a whole week. At the end of the week, people tell me to come back home. And I remember that this person from the shelter said, if you don't fix your problems, then your problems will keep on following you. I got back on the bus and went back to Arlington. When I went back home, that was the first time I was hospitalized. I spent 1 month in the hospital and then I went to jail for 5 months. I thought I never going to get out. Thankfully, God was on my side. When I got out, the doctors labeled me as having major depression. Having major depression feels like I'm in a dark time. It feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Recently, this past summer, I just lost my cousin, who was 24, and my uncle in back-to-back months. I'm working at my cousin's old job, and every day is hard for me to accept death. I lost someone who was close to me, and life's not the same. Football season is not the same. Dealing with two deaths and having major depression, it's like I want my life to be over. If I don't get a lot of sleep, that's when the suicidal thoughts come in. Right now, I am thankful for my treatment team. I try to stay busy and active by hanging out with friends and going to Clarendon House, which a day support program the county provides. I also go to the ED program for young adults and meet with Kevin, who is an inspiration to me. Kevin is a peer support specialist who works who works at the county. When Kevin came into my life, that's when I knew that God wanted me to be a peer support specialist for mental health. I always said there's a reason that why I am on this path to help people who have mental illnesses and a disability. My treatment helps me so much that I'm ready to help people and be a mental health peer support specialist. What keeps me alive is doing the things I love, and I love the Baltimore Ravens. Last year, I got to meet my hero and inspiration, Ray Lewis of the Baltimore Ravens, and also got to meet half of the team. I realized that God created me like this, and I learned how to accept that I have a disability and a mental illness. Everyone is not perfect. Everyone has a disability in life. I realize that everyone has a story also. I'm blessed to be able to walk, see, breathe, hear, and help people out. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you, Chuck. And now Cheryl is going to share a little bit about her story in a poem titled A Journey to Healing.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. I am, first of all, a mother of three, a wife, a teacher, and a writer, and a woman who really, really believes in God. Members of my family all suffer from depression and different levels of anxiety. And me trying to be the super mom, running around trying to fix everything, was in denial that I was suffering from depression too, but I was a functional depressant. just going around, not, sitting by myself. I had to do more and more and more, so I couldn't really think about it and face reality. Sorry, it's a little hard. But all this time, my family was falling apart. I had so many sleepless nights. So much dysfunction was going on. So many things I couldn't understand. And just at the breaking point, and especially at night, it got really, really worse. But my support came in three folds, thank you, God. First of all, my friends, some who are here tonight. And as a friend, not giving advice all the time, but just listening to me, letting me exhale. Second, my church, who gave me the avenue to write, which was therapy for me, write about God and do plays and stuff. And last but not least, the Arlington County Behavioral Health. They were lifesavers. A shout out to my therapist, Laura Ballard, and the therapy, she goes far and beyond her job. And all the other staff members, the respect, the confidentiality, the sincerity, but most of all, they show love. And they have embraced my family and myself, and I just don't know what I would do without them. So this is why I want to share some poetry that I wrote. And the name of it is A Journey to Healing poem. You ask me how I'm doing? I'm doing well. I'm all dressed up. Can't you tell? Oh, my family? They're wonderful. They're doing fine, I answer, while smiling on the while. But I was trapped pretending in a world of fantasy and denial. Everything is going wrong. I tried to make it right. But see, I was imposing my own will. I wasn't walking by faith. I was walking by sight. And this mask right here that you wear in a masquerade, I cling to it. I wore it each and every day. I had to wear it to keep from hiding, to take the pain away in so many ways. I asked God, when is this season going to end? God gently answered and said, it begins within. God told me that I couldn't help anybody in my family, that the healing first had to begin with me. And I trusted God that this would be. Then the revelation was so clear, vivid and clear. My eyes could finally see. My ears could finally hear. The road to recovery, it's not far, it's near. Now I'm on my way to the journey of healing. The path is not easy. It's hard sometimes. But knowing that me and my family will be healed makes the struggle so divine. The spirit of depression I will not have in my possession. Again, I say the spirit of depression I will not have in my possession. And this here mask, I don't need it anymore, because I'm getting stronger and stronger every day to face reality. As for me and my family, we claim the victory. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. And next, Brian Delp is going to share part of his recovery journey titled A Mind on the Mend.
Hello. That's my counselor out there, Aaron Whitehead. So, Community Service Board, Arlington Department of Health Services has been a great resource for me. I have been connected with some peers who I see out in the audience today. And to be frank, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I got from my counselor was that in all of my self-importance, the way I once and frankly continue to see them as disabled is the way that the people in my church community, the young adults there see me. And it sucked. So I'm thankful for my father. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for having a financial situation that allows me tremendous healthcare opportunities. I'm not completely dependent on DHS, and so I will speak more to having a private psychiatrist who has been with me for 4 years now. I am a sufferer of schizoaffective disorder, and the number one symptom is a Latin or Greek word called anosognosia, which is the lack of recognition that you have the disorder. So the other side of this cousin of schizophrenia is I also have a mood disorder. So trying to come up with something to write here fluctuated a lot, and I've been really behind in school for the last 5 weeks. I haven't shown up to a lot of classes. I don't sleep well, or I sleep in, or I wake up and I don't go to school, I don't go to work. I have a lot of hate in my heart, and my counselor suggested, I asked him at the beginning of the night because I thought I'd probably just make up this speech on the spot. I didn't like what I did in rehearsal. He said, keep it to a mind on the mend. So the mind in many indigenous and ancient civilizations, or even currently in Hindu, Buddhist culture, means the heart. Mindfulness is heartfulness, is the actual translation. And after 4 years of isolation in Berkeley, California, in my early 20s and loss of hair, I came to have a split between my heart and what we call in America our mind. And I experience just psychotic thoughts or words, and it's really hard for my mom to hear, and I talk to my dad a lot about it, and it's kind of weighing on his spine, and it's time for me to take responsibility for my own mental health. And I've made a lot of progress over the last 4 years. Coming home, medication has helped, even though I was very resistant to it. It helps me see what's possible. I don't recognize it as a cure. It certainly doesn't calm the symptoms. I can't admit to hearing voices, but when I do, my voice tells me I hear voices, so it's this conundrum. Although it didn't right there, so maybe the more people I tell it to, the easier it gets. I'd like to also thank all of you at the moment for listening to me. I was hoping I'd break out into tears and tell you guys everything that I hear inside myself, but maybe that's not the point. I hope to, at Mason, that I now currently attend, to start a NAMI chapter, National Alliance on Mental Illness, the shirt I'm wearing. I didn't want to get too dressed up for you guys, so I could wear this t-shirt. NAMI has been a big help. Just reaching out for all the resources I can. And the next presenter is going to blow you away. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And next we have Dominique, who's going to close us out with I Pulled Through.
Hi. I've never actually done this before. I've shared my story to the public. And looking at all of you, I'm actually really scared. Okay, all right. Breathe, Dominique. Breathe. You can do this. You are doing this. Shake it off. So how do I start? Do I talk about my diagnosis? No, wait, no. My life story. That's it. I was born in June on the 12th. Okay, no, wait, scratch that. Oh God, how can I do this? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Thanks for letting me share some of my anxiety with you. This is my brain every single day. Overthinking, constantly focused on calming down from every small emotional trigger. It's a little of what it's like to be me. So who am I? My name is Dominique, and at the age of 18, I was diagnosed with 3 major mental illnesses: borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and bipolar disorder, all which stem from the constant turmoil and trauma that I dealt with from the beginning of my childhood until just a few years ago. Every day since being diagnosed, I have diligently worked towards having a normal life. I came from a dysfunctional family who constantly berated me with negativity, left me to fend for myself, and still believe they've done nothing wrong. I was emotionally, physically, and sexually abused by the people that I cared about most. And I believed that it was because I was not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough. What's funny though, is that if I had not tried to give up and leave this world, I never would have gotten better. I never would have been able to have friends who gave me the family I've always been looking for. I never would have graduated from college. I never would have found a counselor who has helped to place me in a more stable mindset, stable home, and stable character. But now, I have a full-time job with benefits, and I never would have defeated every enemy, be it person, conflict, or disaster, that has consistently come into my life. Despite my past and my diagnosis, I've pulled through because I know how to work. I've been working with my counselor for almost 5 years. She's been there for me because I showed her that I wanted to be there for me, despite not having the tools to do that. When she met me, I was a scared little girl, trying to work in the shadows of those I believed to be better than me. I was easily misled, manipulated, and used. Now, almost 5 years later, I'm stronger than I've ever been. And why? Because I do my best to make every appointment, apply every method my counselor gives me to work with my diagnosis. I take control of what I can, and I reach out for help when I know I'm going to fall. I accept my mistakes, take responsibility for my actions, and I make sure I don't continue to repeat my mistakes if I can help it. I put in the work to pull through and complete my goals, no matter how hard it is. It's not easy living with mental illness. We constantly have to fight invisible battles that no one may recognize us for when we finally win. To outsiders whose brains are recognized by society as normal, it's normal to make it through the day without a breakdown or suicidal thought or physical injury made by oneself. To us, the individuals constantly outcasted by society, our community, and friends and family, we have to constantly remind ourselves to be proud that we could accomplish a normal day and never beat ourselves up if it's not normal. Truthfully, it's liberating to be able to stand up here and be recognized for fighting my invisible battles. It's amazing to be recognized that I am amazing because despite my diagnosis, I accomplished normal. But every day I have to appreciate and commend those who are still fighting to just make it through the day, let alone their goals. I pulled through because I pulled through one day at a time, and I know we all can too. Thank you.
So that is it for the evening. Thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you to all of our presenters, and I really hope that you've been inspired this evening and that you've seen some great examples of recovery. And on your way out, please pick up an inspirational glass stone that as a reminder of the courageous individuals that you heard this evening and the inspiration of hope for recovery. Thank you. I have something little for you guys, so hold on one second.